Hi everyone, Smelthany Smeltano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new No Age album, Snares Like a Haircut. This is the latest full-length album from West Coast noise rock and noise pop duo No Age. It's kind of weird to think that I've been listening to and have been aware of this band for like 10 years now, since they made a giant splash on the indie scene back in 2008 with their debut album on Sub Pop Records, Nouns, which is still one of my favorite contemporary Sub Pop releases. You know, No Age is often cast off as like this flavor of the month indie band, but I honestly think that there are a lot of interesting ideas that turn up on their records. I love the foundational elements of indie rock and punk that go into the band's songs, and I love the layered, glistening, noisy, and psychedelic sounds they enhance those songs with. It's a sound and it's a style that to me really runs back to the roots of shoegaze, but there's something very modern and digital about it. The issue for me though with No Age is that I feel like the duo has had a hard time finding their footing musically ever since they dropped that record. Their follow-up, Everything in Between, in a lot of ways to me felt like a watered down version of everything I enjoyed in the duo's music. Meanwhile, they totally turned left with An Object and delivered this record that was so abstract, so lo-fi, so weird. In a lot of ways, it was too messy for its own good, and the whole thing just felt, I don't know, bogged down in concept to the point where the songs and the sound of this thing suffered. Snares Like a Haircut, though, feels like some of the sounds and aesthetics of that Nouns era are returning. Of course, on this thing, you're getting all these shouty vocals and punky guitar riffs and drum beats, and they're just being smothered in all of these textures that are spacious and fuzzy and trippy, occasionally otherworldly, especially on the more instrumental and abstract moments on this thing, like the title track, where you get all of these cycling percussive taps and all of these droning, shimmering guitar tones just ringing out aimlessly. It's not high impact or anything, but it is very beautiful to listen to, and it does make for a nice intermission in the middle of the record. And sonically, it's certainly more interesting than a lot of the material that's been on the duo's past few records. And the song Third Grade Wave, if not for the rolling drum beats playing throughout the track, this thing would pretty much be like a messy sax guitar new age improvisation. But these are kind of the weirder spots on the record. A majority of the cuts here are actually like pretty sturdy rock tracks with a lot of interesting sound play. But No Age does a good job of expanding their repertoire a bit beyond the scope of indie and punk. The song Squashed is a bit of an art rock tune that to my ears feels sort of indebted to the early days of the Velvet Underground. The abstract lyrics, the intimate vocals, the kind of very low-key and very lovely guitar tones, all playing against these pulsating percussion samples. And Primitive Plus is a pretty sweet neo-psychedelic track, with Dean Spun's vocals kind of sitting at the middle of this sonic universe with all these crazy, ambient, beautiful guitar tones kind of just like orbiting around him. It's a very experimental send-off for the album, and I love the way the track transitions into like a lo-fi version of everything that you've been hearing previously. It sounds like you're listening back to the exact song you've been hearing, but played on a tape out of like a really dirty speaker. However, though, a majority of tracks on this thing do kind of feel like your typical No Age affair, I guess. Maybe though with a bit more sonic oomph, even if some of the layering on this thing does fall kind of flat. I'm talking about tracks like Cruise Control and Soft Collar Fad, as well as the track Title to a degree. And I will say Dean Spunt's kind of bratty, shouty lead vocals, they do tend to get a little tedious after a while. They're kind of limiting, although there are a few cuts here where he kind of goes beyond that a bit, like on Send Me, which is probably one of the duo's most I guess, vulnerable tracks, one of their most ballad-like tracks. The song has a real rush of emotions coming off the vocals, as well as the very glossy crescendo of tones that kind of swell along with the song as it transitions from one section to the next. And Secret Swamp, despite it being one of the more aggressive cuts on the album, is easily one of the more melodic songs on this thing too. Popper has a pretty strong hook as well. I've got a lot to offer. I don't think I should bother. Still though, if anything is holding this album back a bit, I do think it is the tunes, some of which are just kind of okay, or just really to be expected given what I've heard from No Age so far. However though, I do think there are a great deal of moments where the band does push themselves outside of their comfort zone here, and the results are mostly positive. They do seem to up the ante a bit on the sound play, and that's certainly a good thing. I guess I'm just happy to hear what sounds like No Age being back on the ball a little bit. As it is right here, I could easily recommend this record to anybody looking for a visceral rock album with some interesting production choices, that's kind of trippy, tight performances, very sound rich. I'm feeling a light 7 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, No Age, Forever.